What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for the Friday, January 13th, 2023 edition of SmackDown. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. We had a good show on Friday. I thought the show was solid, a bit better than last week's for sure. Highlighted by the opening and closing matches, Gunther and Braun for the Intercontinental Championship, and Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn in the night's main event. As I expected, it would be the best parts of the show, since they did not bother to advertise anything else for this episode in advance. The stuff we got in the middle was fine. I'll get into it. It was decent, but I did think the best parts of the show, once again, were the opening, or specifically, the Bloodline stuff, and then this week was the Intercontinental Championship match as well. I thought Gunther and Braun Strowman had a very, very good match for the title to kick off the show. The talk of Friday night was not really on SmackDown or Rampage, for that matter. I know Impact had a hard-to-kill pay-per-view I still got to catch up on. The talk of Friday going into these shows was the apparent backstage talent meeting they had at SmackDown right before the event. Hosted by Triple H, led by Triple H, Kevin Dunn spoke as well. Only a few news and notes coming out of it, really nothing major. But unfortunately, a lot of what Triple H apparently said during said meeting doesn't really mean anything when you consider what he said during this meeting was also kind of sort of said along similar lines about a week ago in the employee meeting for WWE. Not the talent meeting, but just employees of WWE, hosted by, again, led by Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, I think over Zoom. And they basically said, even in light of all the Vince McMahon news with him being back on the board, him coming back, the management team will not change. Sure enough, give it a couple days, Stephanie McMahon resigns, and Vince is back as the executive chairman, as the head of WWE. So, this is not good news. Triple H basically said during the meeting that he does not expect the talent, or rather the creative process for the talent, to change right now, or really at all. But that could change. He said that could always change were the key words in that statement, which is not good fucking news for this company or the talent or the fans, knowing that that's probably inevitable at this point. I can't see a scenario where Vince McMahon runs WWE, and I know Triple H said he's only back to help orchestrate the sale of the company if they do sell and whatever. And then, based off the statement I read there, I was not in said talent meeting, but it makes it sound like that once they either sell or don't sell, or they get that process out of the way in the next 3 to 6 months, Vince McMahon will have no longer anything to do with WWE. So you're telling me he's only the executive chairman for the next 6 months? Give me a fucking break. With Stephanie resigning, I find that very hard to believe. If he was only around for the sale, why would he need to be the chairman? Why is he the chairman right now? I don't understand that at all. So, I'm sure we'll find out more about this as we expect to in the weeks to come and the months to come. I mean, listen, Vince could be running creative again within a week, within a month, by WrestleMania. It honestly at this point feels inevitable. We might as well prepare for the worst case scenario, not to fearmonger or anything, but now that Vince is back in charge of the entire company, I do find it hard to believe to see a scenario where he's the executive chairman but not running creative. So, that might be coming at some point, despite what Triple H says. I know Kevin Dunn said, I've been working for Vince for 40 years, and he said nothing to me about changing anything within the company. Give me a fucking break. Give me a break. That doesn't mean anything, especially coming from Kevin fucking Dunn. So, the shows have been better, obviously, since Vince left. We can only hope that he won't go back to running creative, but again, only time will tell whether that actually happens. As far as SmackDown is concerned, like I said, on a lighter note, the show itself I thought was solid. It was a good show, I thought, overall. Specifically, the opening segment, the opening match, was excellent. Gunther, Braun Strowman, another gem for the Intercontinental Championship. Give Strowman all the shit you want. He says a lot of dumb stuff on social media sometimes. You don't care about him as a wrestler, whatever. He can go in there at times and have some really, really good matches. This proved that. I thought the Omos match at Crown Jewel was not a 5-star gem. It's not going to be in anyone's list of the best matches of 2022. But they went in there and exceeded expectations, had a better than I thought they would match. I thought they had a better match than I thought they would. And then, Strowman won as he should have. He's had some decent matches since coming back to the company. He looks to be in great shape, and he's been booked well. And he came in here and had a great match. This will not be mistaken for an in-ring mat classic, but for a fucking hoss fight, I thought they delivered. Gunther is just great. Literally every single opponent he has had a different style of match with. Rey and Ricochet, two high flyers, he's grounded them, kind of having to adapt to their high-flying style. Shinsuke going in there with him, having a hard-hitting match, nice striking match, same with Sheamus, and now with Strowman as well. All very different types of matches, won in very different ways. This one he won with a powerbomb that didn't look great, but it also is very difficult to pick up someone of Strowman's size for a perfectly placed powerbomb, but it still looked pretty good overall. And he won with that after Strowman kicked out of a splash, he kicked out of a clothesline, he kicked out of everything that Gunther had in his arsenal, except for that one powerbomb from Strowman standing on the top rope. That was his downfall, and he lost. This was awesome. I appreciated they didn't do the title change here. I did worry they might do it, and that was not far-fetched. Strowman did win the Intercontinental Championship around this time, 3 years ago on SmackDown. He didn't win at the Royal Rumble. He won it in January of 2020 on SmackDown. And that was, again, after a 6 or 7 month reign from Shinsuke Nakamura. Gunther's now been champion for 7 months. And as I tweeted earlier on Friday, no one has held that Intercontinental Championship longer than Gunther, except for Cody Rhodes in the last 10 years. Gunther is the believe it or not, that championship has had a lot of short runs. I know Shinsuke had like 2 different runs that were like 6 months each, long each, and except they just didn't really mean anything because the reigns weren't overly great. So you had that, but beyond those even including those Shinsuke reigns, Gunther has now surpassed those reigns. He is now the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion since Cody Rhodes in 2011/2012. Cody Rhodes, I think, held the championship for 240 days, I want to say. Gunther has been champion now for 10 days. Listen, if they keep the championship on him until WrestleMania, he will break that record. He will break Shelton Benjamin's record, who has the next longest reign after Cody Rhodes, from I think 04-05, I think, from when he won it in late 04, held it through mid 05. I'm pretty sure. And that was from almost 20 years ago. So Gunther, as it stands right now, is already the longest reigning champion in the last 10 years. If he can beat Cody Rhodes' record, he will have been the longest reigning. Actually, Benjamin's record is only a couple days longer than his. So if he beats Cody's record, he will therefore beat Shelton's record. And if he beats Shelton's record, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he will be the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion since The Rock in 1997. Yeah, The Rock was champion for like fucking 280 days or something like that. So he won't be able to break the record. Savage, Tito, among other people, obviously even Honky Tonk Man, all held the championship for at least 400 days. Gunther would have to be champion through like, not the end of 2023, but like at least by the end of this summer, which I don't think is happening. He's probably dropping that championship to Sheamus at WrestleMania. They already have Roman Reigns as the long reigning champion. He's already been champion for almost 3 fucking years now. They can't do the same thing with Gunther, I don't think. They could. I don't know if they want to. They probably will, and they should, have Sheamus win that championship from Gunther at WrestleMania, in my opinion. Honestly, I could see a scenario, because we're getting this Drew and Sheamus tag team now, the Banger Bros, which is hysterical. Not the tag team itself, but if you know, you know. We're getting the team between them right now. I know they're facing the Viking Raiders next week in a first-round match in this new SmackDown Tag Team Title Tournament. So, to kind of reinforce what we've already been saying for the last couple of days, they are indeed splitting, it sounds like, the tag team titles. Now, could the Usos retain the titles against the Judgment Day and then whoever wins this tournament? Sure. But why all of a sudden would they start to tease the championships being defended separately? Honestly, I would rather see the tag titles remain intact as opposed to separate entities on different brands, have those defended on both brands, and then separate the world championships. That's my personal opinion. I don't think they really, even with Triple H in charge, prioritize the tag team stuff enough. So, I don't want Drew and Sheamus winning the tag titles. They've already faced the Usos. They've already lost to the fucking Usos. I hope they don't win the SmackDown Tag Team Title Tournament. It really has to come down to Owens and Zayn winning the titles. I don't know when this tournament culminates, is the thing. The winners of this tournament, the Royal Rumble's in 2 weeks. So, are they really going to have it culminate for the Rumble and have the Usos defend twice in one night? I don't know if the Usos and Judgment Day was ever announced for the Rumble. Maybe that's happening next week on Raw. I'm not sure. I don't think so. But maybe I missed the commercial during SmackDown that announced it. I'm not exactly sure. It has to be Owens and Zayn at least taking the SmackDown tag titles from the Usos at WrestleMania. That just makes the most sense to me. But anyway, so I was going to say with Drew and Sheamus, they're a team right now. Maybe we get a triple threat at WrestleMania. Maybe it's Drew, Sheamus, and Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. To me, I would rather just have it be Sheamus. Listen, maybe Drew and Sheamus want the WrestleMania match We haven't seen Drew and Gunther really at all. I think they were in one tag team match against each other. I think maybe a tribute to the troops. Beyond that, they really haven't had much interaction. Drew and Gunther straight up would be great, but the problem with that is that the story lies with Sheamus winning the Intercontinental Championship for the first time. So I guess they could do a triple threat. If they don't, what do you do with Drew? That's the question. They already had him face and beat Karrion Kross, who's really left on SmackDown for him to face and beat. LA Knight, maybe, potentially. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, just one thing to keep your mind on. So, in addition to the Intercontinental Championship match, we also had Rey Mysterio out in the ring declaring himself for the Men's Royal Rumble match this year, before being interrupted and confronted by Karrion Kross, who's been on Rey's case as of late, targeting him, stalking him. Kross eventually laid out Rey Mysterio, but I honestly really liked what they did here. The crowd didn't really seem to care, which is whatever, but to be expected, because it doesn't really seem like Kross is overly over right now. But I really liked what they went for here in the story they told, because Rey had mentioned that, the holidays should be a positive time, a happy time. Dominic ruined that for him, because this is the first time that we've really heard from Rey since that whole thing happened a few weeks ago. Dominic ruined that by coming to his home with Rhea Ripley and fucking up his holiday. And he wasn't happy about that. He said he won't stand for it. And then we got Karrion Kross coming out instead. So they're clearly setting up Rey and Dominic for Mania. And if not Rey and Dom, then Rey and Bad Bunny, the rumored match of Rey and Bad Bunny versus Damian and Dom in a tag team match at WrestleMania, potentially, probably, for the Raw tag team titles. But Karrion is the kind of the interim feud for Rey right now, right before WrestleMania. And he said, listen, do you hate yourself for what Dominic has become? Or do you hate Dominic for what he's become? Or do you hate yourself for allowing that to happen, really? And they kind of went back and forth, and Karrion laid him out. I thought it was a really good segment. Again, the crowd didn't really seem to care, but I thought it was a really, really good segment with what they were going for here and whatnot. So I enjoyed this a lot, actually. Tegan Nox took on Xia Li. If you can remember, about a month ago, it's easy to forget, but it was about a month ago on SmackDown. They haven't consistently furthered this feud. There's been no real promos. They may have had an interaction, I think, on the SmackDown Lowdown, the show that I review that no one else really watches, and understandably so. Beyond that, they really haven't had much interaction. Xia Li cost Tegan and Liv. We never really found out why, by the way, I don't think. Xia Li cost Tegan and Liv by attacking Tegan, the WWE Women's Tag Team titles, a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown. And then Xia Li beat Tegan straight up in that fucking gauntlet the following week like a loser, in a matter of minutes, no less, as well. So Tegan got her revenge here, beating Xia Li. The match was decent. The problem wasn't with the match itself. No one just really seemed to care. And I don't blame them. I love Tegan Nox. She's one of my favorites. Aside from that quick video package about a month ago on SmackDown, they really haven't given people any reason to care about Tegan Nox. They haven't really given them any reason, especially to care about Xia Li. Xia Li is talented, but she has been positioned as a stepping stone since coming to SmackDown a year ago. A lot of that falls on Vince, but now Triple H has had to pick up the pieces in, the absence of Vince and what he's done to a lot of these women. Tegan he just brought back. That one falls on Triple H. He has not done more to make people care about Tegan Nox. He hasn't really pushed her. He just kind of brought her back to be there. And now we expect people to care about these matches featuring people that people don't care about already. So if they're not beating established names like Charlotte or Becky or Asuka or whatever, it's going to be hard for people to care about people like Tegan Nox. Now having an established woman like Charlotte back in the mix helps. Rousey, I think, is still around. I don't know. I know she just got pulled from the Raw 30th anniversary lineup. Doesn't sound like she'll be back now. I mean, maybe she'll be back for the Rumble. I thought we were getting Charlotte and Rousey for the Rumble. I thought. But then we got a brawl backstage on the show between Charlotte and Sonya. Even though Charlotte just beat fucking Sonya Deville a week ago on SmackDown clean. Why I would want to see that again, I'm not sure. But, I like Sonya as well. But again, it all falls on the booking. This division is a disaster. And I give them credit enough to where they featured the women a lot on the show. We had Tegan and Xia Li in their match. We had Raquel and Liv a little bit later on. The Charlotte-Sonya brawl. They have some stories going on. It's just a lot of stories that people don't care about. Emma was backstage at one point, as was, I think, Maxine Dupree, who we do not need her in the ring, I don't think. So, I don't know. There are some stories they're telling right now with a lot of the women. They're just stories featuring women that the crowd has no incentive to currently care about is the problem. After the Tegan and Xia Li match, we had Bray Wyatt addressing the audience, addressing LA Knight. I shit you not, because I watched this after the fact. I watched it streaming after the fact. The promo from Bray, which I appreciate didn't drag on longer than it needed to, because he's really said all that there needs to be said at this point. A lot of the material is very repetitive. I appreciated that he didn't drag it on. But I shit you not, this promo probably lasted about as long, if not a little bit shorter, than the entrance itself. The entrance takes up, it's like fucking Undertaker long, and it's a great entrance. But when you do it every week, it's really not as special. And it's like a 2.5, 3 minute long entrance. And then the promo was 2.5, 3 minutes long. Addressing the audience, addressing LA Knight, briefly kind of giving us an idea of what this Lights Out match is going to be, or the Pitch Black match, rather. Lights Out is AEW. Even LA Knight was doing interviews this week with After the Bell and other outlets and stuff, and he had said, I honestly have no fucking clue what to expect, really. He said it might be a street fight a little bit in the dark. And they probably haven't even told him yet, and he's just going off his own speculation. We really have no idea. It sounds like a disaster, but I hope they can make it work. I hope it's not cinematic bullshit. The people in the audience do not need to be subjected to that crap. They're paying to see Bray Wyatt in the ring. It better be an actual match. So this was fine. It furthered the feud. It was good stuff from Bray. I'm just really ready for this rivalry to be over. And not really the rivalry itself, but really for these two to just move on. For Bray to move on specifically. The Uncle Howdy stuff is really long in the tooth. I'm sure it's going to culminate at WrestleMania. I'm sure that's the plan. And I hope they reveal who Uncle Howdy is at the Rumble. Because if they have Bray Wyatt beat Knight, or Knight beat Wyatt, or whatever it might be, probably Wyatt's winning, I would assume. It's his first match back. Knight should probably win too, but Wyatt, it might be a bit more important for him to win his first match back. He hasn't won an important match in what feels like forever, in literally years. You know, I would hope that Uncle Howdy's revealed afterward, because after that, that's really who he's feuding with, and he's not going to be feuding, hopefully, with another mysterious figure for the next 2 months. They have to give up who it is or what the fucking next step is going to be, because this shit is getting really long in the tooth, and people are starting to not care if they care at all anymore as it is. So, that's my only hope from that match, regardless of whether it's good or bad. Just get us to the next step of the story so we can all just hopefully move on. I mentioned Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan had a match. This stemmed from a backstage segment where Liv, she mentioned last week and she mentioned again this week, she wants to enter at number 1. All the other women said that's kind of dumb. Why wouldn't you want to enter at number 30, Raquel said. And then, she said she also made fun of her stature and said, listen, you're smaller. Not that people your size can't win the Rumble. We saw that with Rey Mysterio, among other people. Chris Benoit. Not that Liv can't win. It just kind of stacks the odds against her, not exactly in her favor. Liv did not appreciate that and told Raquel, oh, listen, I just got a palm reading this morning. Look at the line in my hand. And then slapped Raquel right across the fucking face. Fired up Raquel, and that set up their match. So, I liked the more heelish version of Raquel. They also teased in the match, oh, this person went over the top rope. They might be eliminated, blah, blah, blah. The typical Rumble bullshit stuff. If we can get a more heelish Raquel, that would be great. Honestly, I thought they might do Charlotte as the heel, Raquel as the babyface. But if they flip it and have Raquel as the heel taking that title from Charlotte as the heel, with Charlotte as the babyface, rather. Charlotte's not a great babyface, but neither is Raquel Rodriguez. And Raquel is really the one they need to be building up. As long as Raquel goes over in the end, that's really all that matters. So, I'm not even saying we're getting that match, but at some point I'm sure we will. Raquel is way better off as a heel. I'm not sure if they are turning her heel. Probably not. This was a small sign of that, but it wasn't like a hit row type thing where I got the idea, oh, they're definitely turning her heel. It was just to set up this match, which I liked. I thought they did the David versus Goliath dynamic well. Lived to look good in defeat. Raquel went over in the end. Good stuff. The main event was awesome. As expected, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. We are getting Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns in a contract signing next week on SmackDown. Whether Owens can make said contract signing is the question, because these two went out there and had an awesome match in the time they were allotted, only for the Usos and Solo, who we were told were not there, to interrupt the match, attack Kevin Owens, award Owens the DQ victory right before Sami Zayn looked like he was going to win himself. He did not need the help. He was a bit conflicted by their interference because it showed that he can handle Owens on his own, and the Usos interfered anyway. And they attacked Owens. They put him to the table. Kevin Owens not Kevin Owens, I'm sorry. Solo Sikoa ran off the barricade and on top of Owens, on top of the commentary table, and put him through the table, which I thought was great. And that closed the show. So more storytelling brilliance here from the Bloodline. I always love that sort of stuff. It's the highlight of SmackDown every single week. I thought this was a good show, definitely better than last week. There was a whole lot of fucking nothing in the middle of last week's show, aside from the Bloodline stuff. You take the Bloodline stuff away from last week's show, that show was even worse than it was. This I at least thought was a good show, because Gunther and Braun was an excellent match. The main event was also great. The two things I was looking forward to the most from the show, the only two things we knew that were happening on the show for a fact, because they didn't advertise anything else. But like I said, I liked what they did with Karrion and Rey, the Bray Wyatt promo, short and sweet, the Tegan and Xia Li match, no one really cared about, but it was fine, and Raquel and Liv also had a decent match in the time they were given. I liked the story they told there as well. So, solid SmackDown 4 this week for Friday the 13th. Going back to what I started the show with, or rather what I started this review with, hopefully the creative process does not change with Vince being back as the executive chairman. We don't know that as a fact, though. That's the problem. We do not know that as a fact. It could very well change. Honestly, I expect that to change with Vince taking the reins again and running Raw and SmackDown. I hate to fucking say it, but I find it very, very, very hard to believe that he would be running the company effectively, and also, I mean, he's not running the company effectively, but you know what I mean. Running the company and also not running creative. To him, I think they go hand in hand because he had done it for so long. Why wouldn't he do it again? Why wouldn't he want to do it again? He wants to assume all power that he had 6-7 months ago. And that's the next step, is taking over the creative reins of WWE. Hopefully it does not come to that. And if it does, we can only fucking pray the show quality does not change. But let's face it, it probably will. Vince is out of touch. We've been complaining about it for years. The shows were largely not good under his watch, especially at the end there. The shows sucked. And say what you will about Raw and SmackDown now, they're not amazing programs. Dynamite's been heating up lately, which is great to see. But the shows are objectively better with Triple H in charge than Vince McMahon, and all the positive changes he has made. But that's just my opinion. Thank you guys for checking out my SmackDown audio review for January 13th, 2023. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. We're probably going to have the SmackDown Lowdown review up tomorrow here on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.